This is More Than Reality podcast, where we dive into all things faith, family, and marriage and share that there is so much more than the reality that you see on the surface. Welcome to More Than Reality with Adam and Danielle Busby.
What's up?
Hey.
Hey, it's episode 14.
14. You got it right this time. So
this week wasn't quite as hectic as last week was. Just traveling around and stuff. So I was a little ahead this week. So I didn't have the previous week's episode on my brain like the night before.
Oh,
So
that's what confused you. It's like, oh, this week isn't crazy. It feels crazy to me.
I mean, it's just the holidays. I mean, shoot, whenever this episode goes out, it'll be, the week of Christmas. We'll probably not. Normally we put episodes live on Wednesdays. I doubt we'll put it on Christmas Day.
Should do it like maybe the next day.
So, hope you guys had a Merry Christmas.
Yeah. Cannot believe December is like, it has just gone by so fast.
I feel like
if this is going to be that, we also should tell me happy birthday.
Oh, yeah. So since from last week's episode to this week's episode, it was Danielle's birthday.
So I get to talk about that on the next
which
episode.
Actually hasn't really happened, but by the time this episode comes out,
future.
It'll happen.
Yeah.
Which is weird.
So we'll talk about that on the next episode.
But
December's flown by, like, swear, it's just gone by so fast.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if it's just the kids that as the kids get older, like, I don't know. What is it? Because it feels like just like holidays just like come and go now, like so quick. Is it because the kids are just older and like you're not really looking forward to the holidays as much because there isn't quite as much excitement because they're older and more mature and just like,
no.
I don't.
Is that a you statement?
Maybe.
Because that's lame. I'm always looking forward to the holidays.
Call me lame because I don't know.
You haven't been in the holiday spirit?
I guess I've been a kind of a Grinch.
Yeah. Speaking of Grinch, I have Grinch socks. I'm not. I feel like it's holiday full in swing and it's so fun.
I don't know. It just doesn't quite feel like. Plus, it's like 75 degrees outside.
I think that's what it is. It's the weather.
We're having like a really late winter. We actually had a really cool spell a few weeks ago, and then it just cleared out.
It was so nice. The fireplace was on, and the stockings are up.
Like most of the day today, I was in like workout shorts and a tank top, and it just doesn't feel like it's the week before Christmas.
I know. I think it is the weather that's throwing us off.
That does not get me in the like holiday spirit.
And we were actually like the lame house, and I always complained about how
we didn't decorate.
Houses that don't have Christmas lights on them.
We're the cranks.
No, I'm gonna put some lights out like today.
We're not.
Like in the landscape or do something.
We're not putting lights out like week before Christmas.
I'm not putting them on the roof. I can't get up there, but I can at least like put those big bulb ones out and have to do something because we look like those people I talk about.
Actually, there's a lot of houses. I feel like there's more houses this year that haven't decorated than.
And plus, like we're going
every other year.
Usually we're already out of school right now. Like usually the last day of school before the holiday break is usually like the week before where we are. Like we get out on Friday and Christmas is like Tuesday or whatever. So it's just, there's not enough like time to like not be in school and like do all the like extra fun.
But then their holiday break goes all the way past the new year, right?
Yeah, which it always does. But
yeah,
I think it's the weather. But
yeah, it's the weather.
Are you going to pull out one of these cards that you brought out last time?
So last week we did 2 of the Connect cards from Jeremy and Audrey. You can go to beating50%.com and pick up these Connect cards, couples Connect cards, and it's just a bunch of...
Did you already pre-pick those cards?
I just, like... So what I did...
Cheater.
So what happened was...
He's such a cheater.
I pre-screened. I pulled a few cards.
Know what your answer was going to be ahead of time.
No, I just kind of scrubbed through and I pulled cards out. They were like, oh, we're not freaking going to talk about that on the podcast or whatever.
Okay. Those are the ones I want to talk about.
It's like kind of like sexual stuff.
So now do we want to talk about Sex.
I mean, do y'all want us to talk about sex on here?
Let's talk about sex, baby.
I feel like this
Let's
isn't
talk
Crystal and
about
Dell's
me.
podcast. That's what they
Let's talk
do.
about all the good things in the back. Do you remember that song? Probably not. You probably never heard that song.
TLC?
No.
TLC, right?
No, that's a channel. And that was the band I used to be in back in the day.
Who sang that?
Actually, I don't know, but it was not TLC. It was like
MC Hammer.
no.
This is
It was
this is the Sheltered
the
Southern
Sheltered.
Baptist.
Oh, geez,
I know this.
It was,
I know the song. I don't know who sung it. Who sang "Let's Talk About"?
Salt and Pepper.
Oh, Salt and Pepper. That's it.
Salt
Not
and
TLC.
Pepper here. Okay, let's do one of the cards. I'm gonna just keep singing.
All right, off the top. What is a memory?
Actually, you start it first. I'm going to read your card first. And I'm going to pick one that, give it to me. I'm going to shuffle them.
She thinks I rigged this. I didn't rig it.
I think that you pre-picked what card you want, so you know how to answer it.
No.
I know you. Okay. What do I do outside the bedroom that turns you on? I thought you said you pulled all these out.
Maybe I forgot one. What do you do outside the bedroom that turns me on?
What do I not do?
I mean, just you existing, baby. Just you walking around the house.
I don't want that BS answer.
Okay. One is. I mean, I'm trying to does it turn me on, or does it just make me more attracted to you? I mean, is that a difference? I'm just trying to think
Maybe tell me what it is and then I'll tell you.
I mean, for Danielle, because she's not like a cuddler or likes anybody in her personal space. It's probably just her even just leaning up against me on the couch or wanting to sit by me. But also if we're walking.
That's the window of oh, she wants to have sex.
Oh yeah. It's going down.
My elbow grazed your arm.
She's turned right now. She wants me. She wants me so bad right now. No, but also whenever we're walking and you'll just reach behind and grab me behind my arm around my bicep or my forearm and hold me there without just holding hands, just you holding onto my arm for some reason that. I don't know. I'm a physical touch guy, so it fills me up.
Nice. I knew that one.
You do.
I did know. I didn't know it turned you on, or. I mean, I just know that.
That's why I was trying to think about it. Is it turn me? What do you consider turn me on?
Like when I'm doing the dishes. That's hot when you do the dishes without me asking. What's my question now? These are kind of fun.
All right, off the top. Ooh. When was the last time you cried?
Today. It's going to be today.
Huh?
It's going to be today.
No, but...
it's going to be today because the things we're going to talk about today.
Oh, yeah. But previous.
Prior to that?
You can't foretell the future on when was everything in that card was past tense.
When was the last time I cried? Oh, I teared up at church on Sunday.
Why?
That was not the question.
Do tell.
I don't know if I can really talk about it because let's see. I was asking and praying for some things in the beginning of church. And then at the end of the church, the service was really well in the message. But then, I don't know, I just felt a sense of asking for God to reveal things to me, which I've been praying for, and open doors and guide my path, but allow me to follow that instead of making my own controlling way. So I just kind of saw something of the future and just kind of saw myself flying around the world in a sense. Actually to Canada and Europe and America. And it kind of just reminds me of some things that I've journaled about. And I don't know, it just made me feel oh, wow, is this connecting? And, what does this mean? So I just felt it was kind of a moment that I felt I was asking for. And so it made it impacted me of this whole fly free statement. I've never talked about this before, but it just went along with that.
Fly free?
Mm-hmm.
What fly free statement?
Just something I've journaled about for a while now. That's my journals. I put that lock on that diary. I'm not talking too much about it because it's some of my personal notes right now. Not ready to share that.
Mm-hmm.
So that was it. That was the last time. I mean, I teared up, and it was just, I don't know, just all around. I just felt like it was a moment of like, I was just needing some clarity on things, and it was powerful. So I teared up. There might have been those wet things kind of came down a little bit, but I didn't like cry.
Just got like watery eyed.
Yeah. And then I stopped it. No, I mean, it was I mean, you experience those like powerful moments, like when you feel the Holy Spirit's like present and like pushing at you, or in a lot of times when it's something that's against my own will, like in a sense, like where it's
not like a thought that you would have on your own. It's like a thought that the Holy Spirit put there.
Yes, but also as far as like asking for clarity on certain things, it just kind of what I've been praying for and certain things, like it just all connected in that moment and gave me a positive outlook. Just impacted me, and it felt loving, and it felt like an answer of like, okay, yes, God, I'm going to continue to trust your way and help me to stop doing my way. My way. There's always a song. So yeah. Wow, it went from that to that. So and then the future crying is going to be today.
Which leads to, okay, so last week we've been going down the journey of our life, and we've gotten all the way up to, we've done our origin stories, how we met, how we got married, fertility struggles, all that kind of stuff. Blake being born, getting pregnant with Quints, finding out we were having quintuplets. And then last week we ended it at the birth of our quintuplets. And this week starts our long journey of
something I think we never could ever imagine. Something
nothing can really prepare you. And I think I said that last week. Nothing can really prepare you for just life in the NICU. Like, you just have no clue. Even to this day, like, I'm triggered by, like, if like a TV show comes on, or even like we go visit somebody at the hospital and you just hear those like beeps, da-da, 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 those beeps, like it just instantly like brings you back into the NICU, because that's all you hear in there, because there's probably, 50, not that many, probably 40 babies in there, all on monitors, and they're all going off at different times. And it's nothing that you can really prepare for as a parent, to just go into that. Just, okay, we had a baby now, like, oh, like I can't bring my baby home, which we knew that was going to happen, but nothing could really prepare you. Like, we knew our kids were going to go to the NICU, but there's just no way you can really be prepared for that. You don't know the ups and downs
that you can't prepare yourself for, the ups and downs that you're going to experience in the NICU. And everybody's experience in the NICU can be so different. But I think as parents who experience the NICU with your kids, you understand each other, because even on a day where nothing went negative or wrong and everything was just great, it's still extremely hard. Yeah. Extremely hard. And it's just something as a parent that you have a hard time with, because, when you have a kid, and in our story, we had Blake first. And so, I had her just vaginally. She came out. She's on my chest. You're holding her. You're touching her. Yeah, get to take pictures with her. The family gets to come see her in your room. And then a day or whatever, you take your child home and you go home. And this was just a completely different sense of what it feels like to be a parent. So I'm thankful that I got to experience having Blake first, that kind of like mother instinct love. Like, how does all of a sudden you instantly love something? And like, that's just that nature that, God's created in us, is how impactful that can be, where you just instantly love and want to protect and just do everything for child, you know? And so with the Quints, it was such a busy day in a sense, but also it was a major surgery on myself and trying to recover with all the pain and, what my body's going through, but also just wanting to see them. It was like this out of body experience in a way because I didn't get to just see them, right? It's like that's traumatic. It's traumatic. Like, here's your baby, and then you can't see them for hours, and it's like
it's not what it should be like,
Yeah, and it's hard. That's hard to
like a natural motherly instinct is to like have your baby and immediately get to touch and hold and to be with your baby, that's been inside of you, that you've been growing and nurturing and everything for the past 9 months, and all of a sudden like you're separated and you don't have a way to connect and to like kind of form that bond.
I mean, what was it like for you experiencing like Blake's birth versus the Quints?
I mean, for a dad, it's hard to say because like it's your first child. And then so like that, like the entire experience of that is just completely new. With Blake, everything was just brand new, and you've never experienced any of this before. So it's like hard to compare this being brand new and all of a sudden like, okay, this is another birth. But then, everything this go around is different. So, as far as like the bond, like it was so hard because, instantly, like after Blake was born, they take her, they like clean her up and stuff like that. And pretty much immediately can like present her back to you for you to hold, for you to feed, for you to just like, get skin to skin. And the Quints, we couldn't do that for I forget how long it was before we could even hold any of them. We could reach in and like maybe like touch their hand or something a day later, a couple of days later. But to hold, it was like weeks before they were ever even able. You couldn't hold your kid until they could like regulate their temperature on their own. Their body just isn't developed enough to be able to like just regulate their own temperature. Their skin was like super thin. Whenever the Quints were born and they hadn't even really developed nipples yet. It was just, they were so early. They needed to cook longer. Their skin was super transparent, sticky, and like they just weren't ready to be like handled. Yeah. And it was so, everything about that was kind of like scary and like fragile and like you're just like, I don't know what to do here.
Right.
Yeah,
and I think you feel that too as becoming a parent for the first time too, or anytime you have a kid. It's like, oh wait, I'm taking them home. What do I do? But
even still, like us, like we were both very hands-on parents and very just like, just so willing to jump in, get your hands dirty, do whatever it took. But even with the Quints, it was, oh gosh, like
are we allowed to?
Yeah, can we do this? Like,
and then that's hard
like,
for you.
What can I get away with here without, like harming them in a sense? And so you're just like, you're on edge, especially for weeks, That was hard.
Like being able to see them for the first time that first night. And then I remember that next day or whatever it was, it may have been just really late that night where the rules are like every kid can have two family members in the NICU. Well, we had 5 kids in the NICU.
So we got to break all the rules.
So it was like me and, obviously Adam got to see them, but then it was like Adam would take my mom back there. Adam took his parents. It's like you could really take a couple people because it was two per kid.
You couldn't just like form a crowd. Like you had to kind of stay.
Yeah, you had to separate.
Like you had to like stay. Okay, you two people, here. You have to stay here. You 2 people, like no more than 2 people or 3 people can be in this area. And so you can like you can like bring them all in and like spread them around the NICU, but you couldn't just like have like a party in there.
Yeah, you can't have everybody at the same time really, but there were 5 babies in there, which meant you really could have 10 people in there. We just had to separate. You had to put them and then just rotate them all so they could see everybody.
Kind of like special rules for the Quint parents, but even it wasn't really special rules because we had so many babies in there, so you kind of
it was 10 people.
You get more tickets.
It's funny. But But yeah, I remember like the family being over in the room and like we took some pictures and I remember them each kind of like taking turns going back and seeing them. And I remember sleeping in the hotel room. It was not a hotel room. Sleeping in the like the suite room or whatever, because they had asked us, with them being the first all-girl Quints, there was a lot of press that wanted to happen. This was like national news. Could we do a story? Don't ask who it was with or whatever, but I do remember waking up one morning and like us going into one of the conference rooms and doing some media.
That was a big press conference. Like
Oh,
that was
a
like
press conference.
multiple
Okay,
news
yeah.
outlets.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
they were
there
all
was,
just
like-
like in their post. I mean, there's probably 20 or 30 cameras in there, and there was like
Us
rows
and the
of
doctors,
seats.
yeah.
You know, reporters with their little notepad, and then like and the doctors like up on this table, just like answering questions. And,
Yeah. So I do remember that.
That was wild.
It's not like it's a blur, but it's like, wow, that really happened, because I swear I turned my phone off.
I literally asked her right before we started.
Did
you turn your alarm off?
I had it on.
She's like, yeah, turn it off.
They don't do not disturb. But it's like I remember these things, but they almost don't feel real, because I think, and I'm like, wait, that's real because it happened to me. It happened to us. It's our family, you know. It's just surreal in a sense. But I do know that we did a couple like press things for those next 2 days. It was very minimal, like in the morning, and then we would, you know, go see the babies. Then I would have to like rest, and I'd be feeling in pain and have to like take rest for a while and medicine. And I mean, we went in there as much as we could. I remember it was just really, it was just shocking. It's shocking to go from one baby to see them so tiny and in their isolette to the next baby, to the next baby, to the next baby, and to the next baby. And it's just like, this is overwhelming. Like,
yeah, because you'd like forget, because like there's different things that need to be done with each kid. And so you like start with one and like, oh, changing them, and
well, that didn't happen then, but
doing like stuff like that. And then you go on to the next one and you're like, oh, okay, what can we do over here? And then you go to the next one. Like,
yeah. And what's challenging was, as a parent of multiples, one of the rules is don't compare your children to each other. And that's just a hard thing to do with children and being a parent in general. Without multiples or not, you have a kid, then you have another kid, and you think, oh, well, it was like this with that one and not this one. But when you've got multiples,
they were born within 4 minutes
you're
apart.
you're hitting the same milestones together. Like everything is together, right? And so you kind of lump them into like, they're the Quints. But within that, you've got 5 different patients that are in the hospital, which meant they're not necessarily a Quint. They're just
a baby
in the NICU, you know, and that's how they're seen. But it was hard to be with one baby and have to share your time to be able to see the rest of them. But also, if something was going on with one of them, you know, selfishly, you're wanting to attend to that and be there, but then get pulled away because this one you were just needed to be replicated multiple times, you know. I would say the NICU is probably the most, out of all the things that we've gone on through sharing our story and that you've heard on the podcast, the NICU has been the most high impactful. I think just with, as I talk about like testimony and like understanding who God is, and, you know, being a saved Christian and loving Jesus, and then walking trials and trusting in him and following your faith, to then really hitting the NICU and trying to understand like, wow, there's nothing I can do.
Yeah.
And you're the parent. And it's heart-wrenching. It's like
all you can do is just trust and rely on God and like pray, and that's all you can do in the NICU.
You know, it's like how did it, like I went through a lot of these babies. There's 5 of them in there. I get limited time with each of them multiple times a day, but which I'm super thankful for, that we did have that time, that we were able to get up there every day and be able to see them and be with them. To be a parent and watch your child in an isolette try to grow, that's hard. That's hard because when they're in the womb, there's something I'm doing for them. I'm nurturing, I'm feeding and like supplying things for them and helping them and loving them. And not that I'm not loving them outside the womb. It's just a different feeling because I cannot do anything for them, right? Except look at them and pray for them, you know? And as a mother, you want to hold them. You want to do for them. You want to feed them. You want to be with them. And so it was a big struggle, just like that mental state of like, how do they even know who I am?
Yeah.
They're have limited time with me and they're with nurses and their doctors more than they're with me.
Yeah.
Like, how do they know? And what I've learned is they do know. They do know that you're their mom. So those of you listening who...
I remember you would wear these little pads on your chest and then you would like leave them in.
That's usually part of my like NICU care packages I give to like moms and stuff. Is I just remember like that mental struggle of like, man, they don't know I'm me. Like, is it even okay for me to be doing this? Like, does it make a difference? And from a mom who experiences, yes, it makes a difference. Like your kids, your babies know who you are. They know your voice. They know like your smell. They know like your warmth and your touch. And that's very, very impactful and helpful to babies in the NICU. That's why skin to skin is super nurturing and nourishing for them. So when you can do the skin to skin, that's like very good for the babies. I remember just, going in there and there was like, we stayed at the hospital, I think it was like 8, 9, 10 days like afterwards, because we were doing press things and I couldn't leave. I couldn't leave. I was like, This is just too hard. How am I going to do this? But those first couple of days, you're still kind of like in shock. I think my body was in shock with, I just literally just blew up, like fluid and stuff just got so inflamed with my body was having to work so hard to supply to now it's now gone back down to here's one of you.
Talking about a shock to the system.
Yeah.
Your body trying to like nurture and nourish 6 people. And then all of a sudden, like, boom, overnight, it's like, oh, wait, there's only one here now.
Yeah. And so I do remember like waking up and then, feeling like these things like there's nothing I can do for them. I can pray for them. I can go visit them, but I can't touch them. I can't feed them. I mean, they're so small. They don't even know how to swallow yet. They don't even have that skill developed. I remember just being like, well, I'm going to try pumping. I wasn't able to pump and produce milk when I had Blake, but I'm going to try my best. And that's started happening. And I remember waking up every 2 hours in that hotel room, every 2 hours at night, being like, I'm going to pump. And I did.
I remember whenever like we were first bringing the milk to the NICU and stuff, and literally the babies would just take, it was like a little syringe full each time.
They could literally only have like a teaspoon.
Yeah, it was
just like what their stomach could hold. And it was through like an NG tube.
Yeah, it would just kind of go into
like a line.
To
your stomach. But it was super small. But I was able to produce, which was a huge answered prayer and a blessing. That was actually one of my prayers that I talked about in one of the previous episodes, like when we were trying to have another child and sibling for Blake and kind of faced with, am I going to go through this again? And then one of those prayers being like, God, I just pray it's not as difficult. And I just pray that like whatever's to come, and if I can be a mom again, that I can have a supply and like be able to breastfeed. And I give all the praises to God for that, because I was a cow and I was able to pump and pump and pump. And that to me was that's what I could do for them. That's like, that's what I felt I was doing to help them continue to grow. Like that was all I could do. That's all I felt I could do. So I felt it was my mission. Like I had to do this every 2 hours. I had to wake up. I had to pump as much as I could. I had to feed 5 babies. And I had to get a supply up as much as I could. And I was going to keep pumping as long as I could.
Yeah. So after the babies were born, we developed this like schedule while we were living in the hospital. We realized really quickly, we knew our kids were fragile and we're just like clinging to life, but it was on day 3. Day 3 is whenever it like really hit us, and it hit us like a 2x4. We weren't ready for it.
Yeah. You're kind of still on this like high of
they're here.
They're here.
Yeah. And you're just kind of getting settled into this new routine of life, especially while you're living in the hospital. It's just, like Danielle needs her rest, but we would go up to the NICU like multiple times throughout the day, bringing her breast milk, just making our rounds with the kids, meeting with the doctors, just talking to the nurses, getting updates just all throughout the day. Especially when we're there, we had nothing else to do other than that. And then Danielle just rest. And so every night before, I think the NICU would like close at a certain time or something like that. And so we would always make sure that, at the end of the night, Danielle would pump one last time, and we would bring it in there to bring it up to the NICU.
Otherwise, it went in the fridge. Not middle.
And then we would make one last pass of the kids, tell them all good night, and then we'd go back to the suite and just down for the night. And so the third night, and so like the way that it was set up, like we'd walk down, and there was just like kind of this just inconspicuous door in a hallway with a little telephone, and you would like dial the number, call, and you'd say who you are.
And I remember I was like, I'm walking there, because the best thing that they said to do for fluid and everything was to just not sit, so to walk. And I was like, I'm going to do it. I got up and I was walking down there.
Yeah.
Sometimes I would wheelchair back, but I would get up and I'd walk. But this was a night that I definitely needed the wheelchair.
Yeah. So, you would call into the NICU, and then they would unlock the door remotely, and they would you'd go into this next room, a holding room,
washroom.
And it was just nothing but like a bunch of sinks and stuff. And so you like scrub in, sanitize, and then you go through another door, and then that was in the level 3 NICU. So whenever we call, they said, okay, we're going to unlock the door, come into the scrub-in area, but
just wait.
And just wait. Don't come into the NICU. The doctor needs to see you first. And nothing could prepare you for that. And then your mind starts racing. Like, what the heck just happened? What's going on? Like, literally no context other than you can't come in. Wait until the doctor comes and sees you.
And I think in that instant, I was not thinking anything as far as like anything that referenced us directly. I wasn't thinking that, even though the higher chances are you've got 5 in there. Something could be going on with one of your kids, because your percentage of babies in there is higher than everybody else's. But I didn't think that. I just saw, because, I had the 2 days before being in there, and then you'd see a doctor and they'd be like, okay, they would kind of put off an area and have to do like a minor thing here with the baby or here. And so it's very common that things are constantly happening and doctors in and out. And so that's the lifestyle in the NICU. There's always something happening. And so when they just said, hang out and wait, I wasn't thinking it was relative to one of our girls, but
So
then we entered.
Yeah. So we scrubbed in, and we're just like standing in this room, just like standing around and waiting and waiting and waiting. And finally the doctor comes through the door. She's like, okay, this is what's happening right now. Cause Riley has always been, the fiery one, the one with like
Rowdy Riley.
We called her Rowdy Riley. And she was just like, always she would fight everybody, and she would just get agitated really easily about everything, which to this day she kind of still does.
She's nosy.
And so she was in the isolette. They were doing some stuff with her, and she was just like started freaking out, and to the point where like she blew and like collapsed her lung.
Yeah. 3
days old in the NICU, a 28-week baby. Obviously that's extremely serious. And in a level 3 NICU, I mean, literally they wall off the area and they perform surgery right there. They don't bring them anywhere else. It's just like everything's ready. Like everything's ready for an emergency situation right there. That's why they're in a level 3 NICU. So the doctor, she was like, look, this was like a rapid decision. Obviously I knew the answer, I wasn't going to call you and ask you, hey, can we perform life-saving surgery on your daughter?
She said, normally we call ahead of time if we need a procedure, but this was an emergency and I didn't want to waste time. So I just acted and this is what we did.
Yeah.
And
so they had to go in through her side, and then go in with a tube on the inside, close everything up, but also like reinflate her lung. And then so like
she had a tube out. She had a tube draining fluid out for a couple days.
To this day, that she still has, Riley can lift up her.
Yeah, she'll always have that
right
scar.
arm, and she has like this scar like right here. And that's whenever we realized, like, man, like any given day, anything can happen in here.
I mean, we're not talking about surgery on like us. We're talking about a baby that is like fits in the palm of my hand. She's like 2 pounds, 4 ounces. She is super tiny and just little. And when we walked around, I mean, this is a traumatic state where we're like,
on a child whose most of their organs and stuff haven't even been fully developed.
Right.
I mean, you're literally, in a sense, like you're providing the nutrients for this baby because their body isn't able to like do certain things yet. And so, I mean, like a extremely undeveloped lungs goes through like a rupture like that, pneumothorax. It's
traumatic.
It's traumatic for sure.
For sure. And then she showed us like the x-rays and the pictures and all you can think of, where is she? Like, where is she, And so she actually was in the pod, like just right around from where we were talking. And so we walked over there and I can't stand looking at those photos and videos from that time, which weren't from that night, but like later in when Adam would like take some photos or something of her, like it just looks so painful. They're so tiny. She had that tube in her along with, all the other wires and stuff that are going on in her. And then it's not like a baby, like we can, even whenever you like fall and scrape your knee and you're crying, you're hurt, you're like, you want a hug or you want your mommy or your daddy. And here, this one is like just had surgery and super fragile. And once again, I'm like overwhelmed with the feeling of like, what can I do? And you just want to, fix it, and you can't.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do it. And it was just an awakening moment of, wow, this is real. This is happening. We're like living on adrenaline at this point. It's day 3 in the NICU. Felt like we kind of understand it a little bit. And then bam, Riley's in for surgery. And this was just one. This was just one of the 5.
Yeah, because like you're 100% of your focus and attention goes on to her at the moment. And then you realize, oh, there's like, we have 4 more kids in here, but you just want to focus, you want to focus on the one that needs the attention the most right now. And I feel like our entire, life in the NICU was like that. It's like, each day, kids were going through constant ups and downs. And, you as a parent, like your reaction is to like favor the one that like needs the most attention right now. And, you're just trying to mitigate everything. And so you just go through these ups and downs of who needs what and stuff. But all the while you have 5 babies in there all the time. So it's just this constant struggle and constant battle. They just got home from school. You want to say hi?
Hi.
Riley, we're talking about you.
We're talking about you right now.
What are they saying?
Huh?
What are they saying?
No, we're talking about your scar and your surgery you had when you were 3 days old. Your scar on your side.
Under my armpit?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She's a scar under her armpit? Okay, bye-bye.
Close the door, please. But
So-
I think the hardest the hardest part of that is that we're already in shock that we have quintuplets. We're in shock that we have birthed them at 28 weeks and 2 days. We're shocked that we are surviving the NICU and they're so small. And this is all another world of new, don't know who to relate to. And it's a struggle, and you mentally are just exhausted in a sense, because what we want to do is just fix things and just like love and support and take care of, right? That's our nature. Like we just want to provide and take care and love and teach and just be there for them. And in this moment, it's like we're in a testing phase of like, how well are you going to love them and stuff? Because I can't do anything for them. This is what was going on through my head. And especially experiencing this shocking moment with Riley and surgery, I'm now like amplified up to like, now I really can't do anything now. Now she's even more fragile, and I literally can't do anything for her. And so going back and forth with all I want to do is hold and protect and take care of, but yet on the outside I can't do it. I have to just step aside and trust and let God guide this journey. And I think that day was like where it really just all hit. It all hit home. Like we had them, it was all like adrenaline, right? And it's like this, that, the other. And there was press and babies and visitors and blah, blah, blah. But now it's like, okay, this is now our life. This is now reality. And we're going to go see them and say goodnight to them. And then we're faced with, well, now she just had surgery and she's super extra fragile. And I just remember not being able to just like breathe in a sense, you know, like I remember getting back. I think we were just like ultrally just in shock. And I remember getting back, getting in the bed, and someone had brought us dinner. And I mean, at this point, it's probably like 11 o'clock, right? We didn't eat, and I don't know.
I think they had a little bit more grace for us in the NICU that night. Literally, our child's going through life-saving surgery pretty much as the NICU's closing. So we stayed in there a little later than we should have.
And I remember just like I'm in the bed and I have the tray with my food, and Adam's like on the chair, couch thing with his tray. And I don't know. I think we were just trying to like get past what we just experienced, but didn't really know how to deal with it. Yeah. Right?
You're both just like kind of
and I just
staring at the floor.
Like, what do we do?
You don't know what to do.
We're supposed to eat this food. I don't want this food. We're supposed to eat. I need to eat. I got to pump. I got to do this. I need to hydrate. And we're just in shock. And I just remember like trying to eat and then just overwhelmingly just started crying and yelling. I don't even remember what I was saying. And I think I scared you.
Yeah, you walked into the bathroom. I think you were going to try to like take a shower or try to do something. And so I was in the room on the couch. You were in the bathroom, and I was just kind of waiting to see if you needed help with anything. And all of a sudden I just hear this, like I've never heard this sound come out of your body before. And you just started like, it wasn't even like a cry. It was just like this like wail. And like it freaked me out because I've never heard that from you. Yeah.
But that's exactly what it was.
I came running, and it's just like you had it was like you had nothing else to do but just yell. Like you couldn't cry, you couldn't do anything. And you were just trying to get it out. Yeah.
It's just complete suffering. And
I think that's whenever like everything like caught up with you. Like the adrenaline, like everything, it caught up with you at that moment.
Yeah. And I just remember like getting back in bed and just crying, and just, you prayed over us. And I just will never forget this day, because it was the first time I ever literally felt the presence of God, literally held me. And that's what it took. And it was just like people have talked about, oh, I've experienced God, or I heard this. And I could hear him and I could be like, that's so amazing. But I never understood the difference in like what it meant to like feel that, like I can trust in God. I can see the things that he's done for us and walked us through and what we've overcome. But that night was the first night that I physically like felt the presence of God. Like I'm telling you, I don't literally, like he just grasped me like it was that hug that I wanted to give Riley, right? Like just pick her up and just hold her and just say, it's going to be okay. And I don't know if it's going to be okay. I want to do that to all of them, but I can't. I'm suffering. I can't hold any of them. I can't touch any of them. I can't do anything for them. And, you know, all those things just start going through your head. And I just remember through that prayer, I don't know what you said, but I just remember God literally just, I physically felt him wrap his arms around me. And that's just what it took was, I got you. You're going to be okay. We're going to make it through this. And it was a beautiful thing, but it was hard. Right? Remember when you asked when I was going to cry? So that is a huge impact to my just life story of being able to understand who God is, who Jesus was, what he did for me.
Yeah, it's hard to, I mean, truly like understand unless you've had like a moment like that. I mean, I always go back to like, you know, whenever, which I saw this when we were, and it's always made me wonder.
This is your shirt, by the way.
Yeah, no, it's like, no, she's wearing my shirt.
It's a flannel button-up shirt. It's not the shirt I have on.
But, you know, like I've gone on mission trips and stuff. And last year I went to Nepal, and there the presence of God is unlike anything that I've seen in the United States. And I feel like it's because people there are desperate or and all they have to hope for is just total dependence on God. And they're just so much more desperate for him that I feel like God like wants that of us. He wants us to draw close. He wants us to be fully dependent on him. And in that moment, like, I mean, just like hearing stories and seeing things, like I've seen like the craziest things happen in Nepal while I was there. And, you know, I've seen miracles, see people like healed from like all this, like from cancer and like stage 4 cancer and just like completely healed, gone. And like all this stuff that just happens like there. And it's almost like routine. Like they're used to seeing God work miracles and like just feeling the presence of God. So like, as I was thinking about like this instance, you know, us coming in after your kid goes through surgery, back in the room, and you're just in complete shock. And literally you have nothing to do but just fully rely on, okay, God, this is 100% in your hands. There's nothing I can do here.
It just was
I'm trusting you for everything. And that's literally all you can do. And we were telling him that in this prayer and just like letting, you know, just like kind of fully putting our trust in him and just relying on him and just desperate to intervene and to, you know, to let these babies survive. And there was no doubt that he was in that room. And it was just like one of those defining moments, you know, through this whole journey of, I want you to feel me and know I'm here and know I'm going to be with you. I mean, there's just nothing like that moment, that night. And just all through, you know, this NICU journey, it was just like constant reminders and, you know, this constant dependence on him through this whole journey. There's literally nothing you can do.
Yeah. I mean, it's part of our story that is, to me a turning point because it sets my, especially, as I can reflect back on it now and knowing this was 10 years ago, which is insane to think about. But as I look back and you could see like all the stepping stones of like what God was doing and how he was working within your life and stuff. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful to reflect on and it's beautiful to be reminded of, but it's so impactful to me. It's the heart, it's the touching point of my story, but it's all we've come up to this far. This is the biggest impact that it's been on my life was that moment. And constantly going through the NICU, just because we had that face moment, just because we had that presence with God in that moment didn't mean that nothing else went wrong in the NICU, because that's not the case. But I think what we were faced with was we had a level of being reminded that God hasn't failed us and he hasn't failed us yet and he won't. And we walked faithfully with that conviction of like, his will be done. And what we can do here is continue to trust, pour out our faith, and pray over our kids, over the doctors, over the nurses. And it was literally day by day, every one of the girls was a different story to tell in the NICU. And that journey can be told multiple different ways. But from this point on, I would say, God has revealed himself to us and specifically to myself. And this is my testimony of this is what I want the world to hear and what I want the world to understand is that a lot of people ask, how did you do this? How did you do that? How do y'all do this? And it's like, we didn't do it like God did. And
yeah, there's nothing I could do.
That's hard for someone possibly to hear that who might not have a level of foundation of who God is. But that's my hope, is that I can spread this story so that it can impact those around. It's taken 10 plus years really to get here to a point where I can actually verbally talk about it, with a mic in my hand, because there's so much trauma that we've experienced with this, even though they've been, God moments, but they've been hard parts of our story. But they're so beautiful because God revealed himself so grand and proved anything is possible. And he can do anything outside of what man can, and that's where my heart sits today. That's where my trust lies today. And I believe that. And, for anyone who is faced with trials today, whether it's NICU or anything else, marriage to family things, to money, to, I don't care, sickness, illness, like it doesn't matter. Like I've seen God and I've experienced God work in miraculous ways. He's worked miracles within our own story, and we've seen him work miracles around us. And God is still performing miracles. And, Adam was just around that a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, whatever, and seeing miracles happen in front of him. And I think us in America, we're so distracted by so many stupid things that we need to get our hearts and heads aligned so that we can really fully experience the presence of God on the day-to-day, because he's there. We're just selfishly choosing to not walk. We're allowing ourselves to be blinded by too many things. Yeah. And it's a journey that, we're going to continue to talk about with the NICU and stuff. We have a couple other things that happen because there's 5 babies in there. I want to kind of like end this podcast on just that's the testament of like, there's nothing that God cannot do. Sometimes it doesn't work out in the way that our hearts and our head think that it's going to. And then we want to fight God and blame God. But above all, his way and his plan will always be fulfilled. And you can trust and walk with him, or you can fight against that. And my encouragement is that you lean in and you fall and you weep and you cry out and you say weird things out of your mouth that you don't know what you're saying. It's part of me. And that moment in the hospital room is just like this weeping of suffering and, lostness, and literally needed hope and some guidance of like, we understand that we can't do this. We're already on the outside of, the pod in a sense. And there's only so much that we are actually allowed to do for our own children. But, thankful for the hands that God put around us and the medical staff and the team and the nurses. And that is a huge blessing. That is something I prayed for every single day. Every single nurse, every single doctor that was going to be around the babies, around touching them, monitoring them, like let them be at their job because they love their job, not because it's their job, And I will tell you, I still talk to some of the NICU nurses today, and they are such a huge impact to my life just because of the way that they nurtured. And, they spent 10 hours a day with our children, multiple nurses, 10 hours a day, while we could be able to spend like maybe 4 or 5, There's always hope. And this is a continuous kind of ironic that we talked about this today, because it kind of sets in with this fly free moment and statement that it's been on my mind and heart over the past probably like 6 months. And so now I'm going to cry again. But it's so good to be reminded that God He's never failed us in all the challenges that we're going to face further on in our story. But even today, I trust that I trust His plan and His way, and I suffer with my own control. And that's where I am trying to fly free. Now I'm going to cry all day.
That's good. I think we have a title for the episode.
Wow.
So, thank you guys for tuning in to this very emotional
If we
episode.
continue talking about this, I'm going to start crying like uncontrollably where I can't talk. So we're going to end it right now.
So we're going to end with Danielle crying.
And
So,
you might want to say to bring your tissues whenever you come, like on what this one's about. Because I don't have them. I have Adam's shirt.
thank you for tuning in to this episode, starting our long, hard journey of just putting our full faith and reliance on God through this NICU journey. And we'll continue the story next week.
Yeah.
Hope you guys had a Merry Christmas. All right. Love you guys.